You're welcome back. You're watching TV3 New Day. It's now time for our big issue segment. But we invite you to join the winning spree with Dewa 539 Chop Money. Now, if you don't know about it, here's all the information you need to know. You can collect your Chop Money every morning at 10 a.m. by simply dialing *446#. Select option 2 to play, Dewa 539 Chop Money. Win 20 times your stake with Direct 1, 40 times your stake with Direct 2, 400 times your stake with Direct 3. You pick from just 1 to 39 numbers, so it's easy to win. Don't wait any longer. Just dial *446# or visit dewa.nla.com to play. Dewa 539 Chop Money now. Dewa is for you to try today if you haven't tried it yet. Now, I am pleased to announce that I've got 3 amazing ladies in the studio with me to discuss very important topics today on our big issue. Right opposite me, we have Frances Esiam. For the very first time, I'm meeting her on this show. Frances Esiam is the former CEO of GCM and the National Communications Team member from the NPP. Hi, Frances. How are you?
Thank you. No, I'm fine.
It's great to have you. Also, we have the General Secretary of the CPP, Nanaya Jantoa is here with us. Hello.
That's one of my names, so it means you are new.
Achim.
You can't mention it.
Achimpim. Achimpim.
Achimpim.
Yes, Jantoa. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
You're welcome to the show. And finally, we've got Aisha Al-Hassan from the National Communications Team of the NDC. Now, I'm sure you all know last Tuesday, on the 22nd of August, there was an announcement from the PURC that in line with its quarterly tariff review, there is now a 4.22 adjustment increment actually on electricity tariffs. There have been many conversations about this. There's also a 1.2 increase in water tariffs. Now, the big concern about this has been that the announcement suggests that this increment will not affect Lifeline customers. However, traders have said that they are going to push on this increment to their goods and services. That means that consumers would have to pay an extra cost for all the goods and services that they acquire from traders and customers who are non-Lifeline customers who are affected by this increase. Also, we are going to be talking about the free SHS. Yesterday here at TV3, there was a national dialogue on free SHS, progress, challenges and prospects. So our second conversation will be on the free SHS and whether or not it has produced low-quality students. A lot of comments have been passed on this matter on social media. A lot of comments were passed during the show, during the live feed, and so I know that you have so much to say about this. We are going to be talking about these 2 topics today. However, yesterday, we went onto the streets to talk to some of the traders and regular Ghanaians about this tariff adjustment and how it affects them and their relations and cost to consumers at the end of the day. Let's listen to what they had to say.
Prices high, the customers might not even bring us the job, and that's when we are going to lose. It's going to
We got people 1 million now, 5 days now, sir.
The prepaid doesn't last after purchase, and we are to expect an increment. We cannot bear this any longer.
Every week, you told 2 million.
We pay so much for prepaid, and so this increment will be a worry to us.
The increment in the utility tariffs. In fact, it is very sad looking at how the economy is going. Right now, Ghana, our economy is in shambles, and people are trying to find their feet every now and then. Businesses are collapsing every day because the previous increment, people are not even able to cope with it. And for you to come back again and tell us that with effect from 1st September, you are going to bring an increment again, at least I think this is serious. And I don't know how things are going to be.
As difficult as it is, there's a need for increase, but it should be reasonable. And reasonable in the sense that it should be within the means of the Ghanaian. Because if you give me a minimum wage of 2 cedis and you tax me 10 cedis for utility, you are asking me to go and steal, to go and pay. So the managers of the economy should not increase it in a vacuum. They should make sure that it is within the means of the Ghanaian. And we should be sensitive to the plight of Ghanaians. Already, people are complaining about economic hardship and that they can't even afford their 3 square meals. So if you are increasing utility, you should have that at the back of your mind. Government should generate more income in order to subsidize some of these things.
The hardship of this country is becoming unbecoming. It's so disheartening. So they should think of it before taking any action. How can you be increasing everything just by heart?
All right, those were some views from people on the streets of Accra on the tariff increment. Frances, you've heard the comments from some of our traders and regular Ghanaians. What are your general comments on this?
I wish my sister Nanaya could have started.
Why?
Because you see, she's been, if I say technical, even though she was
at the
corporate
PRC.
at the PRC, it was her voice we're hearing normally with the announcements. So the structure and build up. Because normally when we have expert discussions, the experts among us should actually lead. But you've asked. So,
yes, yes.
Because you said general.
Yes.
So no problem. I'll say good morning to viewers out there and to all our panelists, especially you. It's been a long while since I saw your face on the screen. Anyway, Nashoko.
Yes.
I will just be very brief. You see, because of this, what do you call it? The automatic review adjustment, or however we choose to put it, it's brought some streamlining, at least in the increment. It's not arbitral as some time ago we used to have it. But when we look at where we are today, globally and domestically or locally, it's not easy. It's not easy at all. But for me, I would have actually preferred or suggested that you have lots and lots and tons of industries who should rather be included when they are categorized into, you know, the most, what do you call it? Industries which may have the greater need, and industries whose output to national development is higher. Industries where jobs are created, there must be something, some incentives. But when we talk of industries who, you know, keep on taking out critical forex, I'm talking of the foreign exchange, for instance, out, because most of them here are subsidiaries with their mother companies in their countries of origin. And if they are actually left out of this.
You mean out of the tariff increment?
Yes. In order to promote the trade or business, I find it not too comfortable. And it's good that Lifeline customers are out. But you see, the pressure on the residential, take up, or those who will be impacted a lot by this increment. We just heard the average Ghanaian talking. Even though some successes have been chalked in terms of supply, the supply chain, I believe seriously that as for industries, no matter how much you put, they must be categorized and some of them must be included. That's one side of it. Now, coming to the other side of it, we've had our population increasing over and across time. And the impact on the system itself, it's put the whole system under pressure. I'm talking of the the energy sector, in terms of the power sector. You see, it's put the whole power sector under pressure. In so much as government has done so much over time, we've seen GridCo, we've seen the gradual decentralization. We've seen GridCo. We've seen clear rules for ECG and others. But the impact of the population means that more will have to be spent in getting, let's say, retooling of equipment, expansion, and so on and so forth. And even though I think our electricity has time to be corrected, supply system has increased to, I think, some 80% or 80% plus. Yes, in recent times, which is good. The basic thing is that what of the 20% also left, they must also come on the national grid. So all these things need money. And again, in so much as ECG tries to make sure that there's a balance, or the PURC, you'll find out that for the illegal people who connect illegally, meaning they're cheating the rest of us, because if everybody was to pay as it is, look at the amount that will be in the coffers of ECG. And let's say ECG owes Ghana Gas, ECG owes VRA, ECG owes the IPPs and so on. So if everybody who is supposed to be in the pay brackets of ECG pays up, especially government, because the biggest, the biggest entity owing ECG is government. And then the illegality, yes, ECG has tried to bring it down over and across time, but they cannot do it by themselves. You see, PURC is a regulatory body. So when the institution goes to them, whether electricity, water, I'm talking of the utility institutions, what you realize is that they try to put in the balance, but at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, some adjustments will be made. At times, it cannot be some piecemeal thing. And at times, we think it is a bit too high. But let's look at the reverse. Do we need the power to continue with our day-to-day activity? Or do we stay in our comfort zone? Or should it be static or very minimal, where then we'll have attendant problems? Because if the power is not on, the tariffs too are not on or are minimal. Then now you see, how are we diversifying our sources of energy? Apart from hydro and thermal, nuclear has not gone beyond the primary stage of, let's say, policy formulation, the actualization, the implementation, or the process towards achieving nuclear. We have so much sunshine all year round.
Yes, we do.
How we tap into it? Look, I was shocked in India, in the UK, in Glasgow. When you are on the train going, look at the number of windmills. Windmills, and all it's what is creating or giving energy.
Yes, but you're in power now.
I'm coming.
Let me just ask. I'm glad you mentioned that. So, you know, we have a lot of sunshine, rainfall, etc. Why is the government not tapping into this? What is the government doing about this?
That's what I'm saying. You know, we have the nuclear, they've added it to the sectors in the energy sector. As we talk, it's already been there. But I think we have this atomic energy and so, but right now, I think a nuclear, there's a whole institution and a board just to see to the acceleration of the nuclear energy program. That program has been there after it was instituted by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah of blessed memory.
But there was a promise for the presidency to run on solar energy, if I remember correctly.
You see, solar energy.
Why is that not happening now?
And I'm saying that solar energy has been piloted over and across time. And you know that the investment in there is not easy at all. And coming down to the current crisis.
But it's been 7 years. No, piloting for 7 years when you have just 1 year in power.
A journey of a mile begins with a step.
But it's been 7 years.
We need to find out critically from the Ministry of Energy and the allied institutions as to what is preventing the acceleration of nuclear and thereby solar power. So I believe that we need some explanation, because Rome, of course, was not built in a day.
Explanation from who?
I'm saying from government.
But you're the government spokesperson here.
No, I'm not a government spokesperson on energy.
Okay, but you're the government rep on this panel.
Yes, and I'm saying that what are the reasons? I will not have the reasons sitting here. But all I'm looking at is, how do we diversify our sources of energy? We know we're into this nuclear, solar energy programs, but they must be fast-tracked. Speaking objectively, they must be fast-tracked.
I don't think I understand your position.
No, all I'm saying is that
yes,
it has been on for a long time. It wasn't started today.
Yes, for 7 years.
No, and I'm saying that, no, not for 7 years.
What has been on for a long time?
Did you have the Atomic Energy Institute from Nkrumah's time to now how many years?
That's what you mean.
And I'm saying that we need to find out, is it a matter of the financial resource? Is it a matter of international collaboration to make sure that the appropriate machinery or mechanisms are put in place? So that is a new conversation altogether.
Okay, let me draw your attention to something else. Perhaps you can better speak to that. While you're making a case for the need for the increase, in the NPP manifesto 2020, in I think page 72. No,
I think I did. I've not said I've made a case
for the need for
the need for the increase. I'm rather given reasons
why the increase has become necessary.
Very good.
Okay.
There are two different things.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the NPP in your manifesto 2020 on page 72, you mentioned that electricity tariffs in particular, will be reduced. If paragraph 160, that is...
don't bother. Don't bother about the paragraph.
So just for the benefit of our viewers,
okay.
Reduce taxes on electricity to household and industry. So the promise is our government is the first in the history of the Fourth Republic to have reduced electricity tariffs in cumulative terms minus 11%, compared to a cumulative increase of plus 265% under the Mahama-led NDC government. But since you came into power, ma'am, we have seen a steady increase. A quarterly review and steady increase. The last increase is the one that has caused a lot of, especially regular Ghanaians, to wonder whether this promised reduction is ever going to happen, or we are going to see a constant increase. Why are you not able to fulfill this promise?
Let me quote President Kufuor, former President Kufuor, on coming into government, on the number of ministers. What he said was that when you are outside of the system, the ideal is there. And when we talk of manifesto promises, the underlining word is that it is a promise. But the reality or the actual situation hits you when you come into power. And you know that when there is reality, you have to go according to what is on the ground.
But the reality is,
no, that's
in 2020, you were in the system.
No, it doesn't matter. All I'm saying is that, I'm coming. Nanaya, I'm going to hand it over to you in a second. All I'm saying is that the tariff increases have been necessitated by certain conditions. So
what are these conditions?
No, I've mentioned them already.
Including the IMF?
The IMF conditionality may be key. Maybe, I say maybe.
Is it maybe key or is key?
No, I'm saying maybe key. Because when the tariff increase was announced, they didn't say it is a conditionality, so we have to.
But
no, I'm coming.
But you didn't have to say it.
No, we may, but you're saying it.
You didn't have to say that it was a conditionality.
No, it doesn't matter. The average Ghanaian standard out there may not even know that it's a conditionality of the IMF.
Oh, we know.
No, I'm saying, when I say the average, probably, excuse me to say, not the schooled person.
Okay.
Yeah. Or the person who cares to know. That's why I'm saying that the IMF conditionality may be a key factor, meaning government may not have gone to this extent. It may have been lower had it not been for the IMF. But I'm also looking at the reality of the situation. How many IMFs haven't we gone through? 18. So are we saying that we'll continue and continue and continue? So I'm just saying that the diversification will be key. You know, we have this biofuels. When you go to some of the industries, some people do what? Create some source of electricity so that these things don't impact on them too much.
Okay, let me
just wind up finally in one sentence. The government has cogent reasons, or the PURC, as an appendage of government, as an advisor to government on these tariffs, as it deals with the institutions, has cogent reasons for our automatic adjustment reviews and for these reviews. But whatever it is, as citizens, as governments, I would actually recommend that PURC can look at it. If indeed it's better to have the power on, in spite of the increase, Ghanaians can judge. Or if the power should be off, like in times when I'm talking of
I think you've made your point.
Yes.
Yeah, we've made your point. I'll give you more time to talk in a moment. But let's hear from others.
I don't even want to go back to this.
Let's hear from others. Let's talk to Aisha. Aisha, what are your thoughts on this? General remarks on the increase and what traders are saying now, that they are going to be passing on the cost to customers.
Good morning once again, Shoko. You know, there's whole energy issue we are discussing, a utility issue, especially with the electricity. It started from when the legacy debt, plans were made for the legacy debt to be paid through the introduction of ESLA by Parliament. What did this government do? When they came to power, they decided to take loans using the ESLA as collateral, leaving the debt hanging as we speak. So this whole problem we are facing today stems from the fact that the ESLA levy that we were supposed to take to recover the energy sector debt has been collateralized by this government. And the monies, till date, they can't even tell us what they've used the money for. However, it could have still been avoidable if the MPP had heeded to calls from the minority. You remember a year or two back, Isaac Adongo, Honorable Atuforsen were all over cautioning this government to seek IMF bail. Remember, it was all because they realized we were heading into a ditch. They realized our problem was going to compound if we don't take drastic measures. So if after squandering the loan you took using ESLA as a collateral, there is a debt and situation is getting worse, and you are being advised to head to the IMF, what do? You run there. But they made all the excuses. They have the men, they don't have to go to the IMF, they don't have to seek support from anywhere, they can do it on their own. They threw caution. Just like that. And today, we are suffering for the debt that has been compounded. This debt was supposed to end just, I think, 2 years after after John Mahama left office. It was supposed to end. However, they came and extended it. They came, extended it, and even used it as a collateral. They've squandered the proceeds of ESLA today, and we are now going to suffer the consequences. So today, we are being asked to pay for tariff increments that we are already paying for through ESLA. You see, she was saying it may be an IMF conditionality. It may not be it is an IMF conditionality, actually. It is an IMF conditionality that the MPP government proposed so they would be able to recover more money from the system. And like I told you earlier, it was highly avoidable. Now, you won't believe since the last quarter of 2022 till date, there has been a cumulative increase 80% in electricity tariffs. Not only electricity, tariffs in general, 80%. Just a fourth while ago, we saw increments. We were all over shouting, thinking it was going to be the end for the year, probably. But what do we see? We are here again talking about tariff increments. What this means to the ordinary Ghanaian is that if you are paying 1,000 Ghana for utilities previously, that was in 2022, the about 80% increment means you are going to pay 1,800 Ghana cedis for utility. This is sad. And we are now being told Lifeline customers are not part. How many Lifeline customers do we have? Most of those people you call Lifeline customers share meters. Most of the people we call Lifeline customers, they share meters. They don't have meters of their own. And how many people even pay less than 20 Ghana cedis to fall in the category of a Lifeline customer? I'm not sure they may even be up to 10% of the population. Yet, we are trying to make it look like we are being considerate. The poor is still going to suffer because at the end of the day, if I am to pay 20 Ghana cedis, you will pay 20 Ghana cedis. Nanaya will pay 20 Ghana cedis. She will pay 20 Ghana cedis. And we are sharing 1 meter. It would move the price above the Lifeline threshold. And definitely, the cost would come back to us. So where is this Lifeline customer thing coming from? I don't believe in any Lifeline customer having subsidies or being taken out of this whole tariff. You see, Ghana would have been a better place if this government has heeded to the cause of the minority. Whatever we envisioned, whatever we saw, the kind of foresight the minority had to project, to be able to anticipate that such issues are likely to occur if we don't take drastic measures. I don't know if the MPP didn't have that kind of foresight to be able to project or anticipate same, or it was out of pride. And if it's out of pride, they say pride comes before a fall. The pride is now what has brought the fall that we are all going to suffer for. You see, and the most painful aspect of this whole thing is, after the tall list of taxes that we are already burdened with, the tall list of taxes that looks like a marriage list that we are already burdened with, you come and add these new tariffs. You add those new tariffs, and now we have to bear the consequences. These new tariffs, even if the taxes and all the monies that they are accruing would be put into good use, we wouldn't mind. We would have been very okay, because at the end of the day, it will have a positive economic effect on the people. However, these taxes that have been accrued are being found in the rooms of government appointees.
No, we don't know.
They are being mismanaged.
We don't know that.
They are being mismanaged.
We don't know that. Let me talk to Nanaya.
They are being used anyhow.
Yes, now. Nanaya, you are former PURC. What do you make of this new tariff adjustment and increase, and the comments that especially Frances has made, since you wanted to interject when she was talking?
I wanted to help her.
You wanted to help her?
She was struggling.
Okay.
Good morning to your viewers and good morning to everybody, you, yourself, and Aisha and Auntie Frances. And I also send a good morning to Dr. Techi, Yojo Techi of the UGMC emergency, and Dr. Adama, Michael Adam of ENT. These are great doctors. They are doing some very good work over there. I mean, you'll be very surprised the kind of work they are doing. And may God bless you. You see, IMF, the tariff increases is a conditionality. And I'm reading something here, and it is saying that there should be a consistent increase of tariffs so that there will be cost recovery. Cost recovery has always been used, but cost recovery can be sustained if the parameters that are used to increase the tariffs or work on the tariffs are constant and consistent. Then when you reach cost recovery, then you would maintain the tariff at that point. You were talking about the reduction in tariffs. In 2018, 2019, the NPP government reduced the tariffs by 20% as a fulfillment of their manifesto in 2016. But that was a disaster, because even abroad, where they have all the resources, the finances, especially in the US, most of these utilities are private-owned utilities. No country reduces tariffs by 20%, because once you do that, then it means you reduce the revenue requirements of the utility service providers. Then you create a debt. So when they did that, actually it caused a problem, and they noticed that they shouldn't have done that, and it created a debt situation. But because the ESLA had been encumbered.
So the NPP should not have made that promise for a reduction?
I mean, nobody, I remember when I was in PURC.
So based on what advice did they make this promise?
Because, I mean, they did a lot during those times, and they spoke against tariff increases. And increasingly, I remember I, as the director for PR and external affairs at the time, in all my submissions to the public, I said nobody should use tariffs as a political tool.
So this promise was not founded on any real research?
No, because I don't know how they did it, but once they did that, it created a lot of problems, revenue issues for the utility.
Did the PURC advise the NPP
I wasn't
at the
there.
time?
They had
you were not
kicked
there at
me
the time.
out, so I wasn't there. They kicked me out because they said I was defending tariffs and I was arrogant and all that, but it's not part of this conversation. So the 20% that they did decrease actually brought a problem. If we are looking at the tariff in overall, the PURC is saying that the reason why they have increased this one is to reduce cross-subsidization within the tariff structure. Within the tariff structure, you have the lifeline, the residential, the non-residential, then we have the industries. The non-residential is the area where they are talking about hairdressers and all that. Mm-hmm. So the second reason is that they are saying that they have to track and incorporate the changes in the key factors. The key factor they are talking about is the exchange rate, which is key, because most of the activities of the utilities are dollar denominated. So whenever there is some movement in the exchange rate, it affects them greatly. You're also talking about the generation mix. What are they using? Are they using more gas, more crude oil, more fuel? Then also they are talking about that the utilities are financially viable. My issue here is that in 2022, there was a major tariff review. In the major tariff review, that is where all the parameters are looked at, and all the revenue requirements of the utilities are put to bear, so that during their interactions with the public, they tell us exactly the amount of money they need for a 4-year term. So as we go through all this, you know exactly what each utility needs to operate. Gridco, VRA, IPP, all of them. So in a year, you go through all that. You go for public assemblies, you do stakeholder consultations with key. In our time, we used to, when I was in PRC, we used to even meet the media. We had a standing press call. So we meet them, we talk about the issues, we train them to understand what the whole business is about. So after everything is done, after the tariff is given, you are given a reasonable tariff that will be able to sustain you. And you are given an 8% rate of return that is like a profit for you to be able to meet your needs, do other things, pay your salaries and all that. So after a major tariff review, normally there is a halt on the AAF, the automatic adjustment formula. So once there is a halt on it, because it is assumed or it is known that the utilities have been given a certain amount of money, quantum, that should be able to help them to operate. When that is done, then your duty as the PURC is to start monitoring inflows, to see how they are collecting, to see how they are doing their work, to also monitor the various factors that underpins the tariff. So then, when it happens like that, even you might even kick in the automatic adjustment formula as a procedure, but you might not give any increase. That you would say that during this quarter, because of ABCD, we are not giving any increase. You only give an increase when there is a key major change in these factors.
So a tariff adjustment does not or should not mean
it's not always that
it should not mean an increase.
No, when I was there were times we decreased.
It cannot mean a decrease too, because
it's a decrease.
You said that a decrease is a bad idea.
No, a decrease, it depends on the kind of decrease, because before you decrease, you have to look at the situation of the utilities. What is their revenue mark? When we left and we gave a certain tariff, it was a cost recovery tariff. We've gotten to a point of cost recovery, so that even when you are going to do any tariff at all, it will be the factors. So maybe exchange rates has gone down. There's a depreciation of the CD and all that, because we had gotten to a point of cost recovery. But immediately they decrease by 20%. Then it means that you have reduced the financial base of the utility.
From all the knowledge you have about the PURC, would you say that this 4.22% increment is reasonable at this time?
No, the way they have done it, what is the reasonability? Because when they were doing it, actually, if they were truthful to us and they used the major factors available at the time, they would have gotten a higher tariff at the time. Then they would have maintained that tariff. Because now the CD to dollar is 12.11. At that time, it was 15. So even if they use at the time, let's say that they use an interbank rate, let's say maybe even 13, $1 to 13 cedis, still they shouldn't have done a tariff if it is not a conditionality. Because now the CD, the main driver, has come down.
Let's talk about the Lifeline customers. There's Lifeline consumers. They say that this increase does not affect Lifeline consumers. And there have been a lot of concerns and questions about the categorization of these Lifeline consumers. Talks have been had about shared meters, about how realistic it is really that a Ghanaian at this time will spend less than 20 Ghana cedis on electricity.
The Lifeline customer is not the CDs that it's the 40 units. Anybody within the category of 40 units can be Lifeline.
That's about how much in Ghana cedis if you're buying electricity?
I have to calculate it, but okay. If you have to go by this, I have to calculate into. But this is the Lifeline. You see, a Lifeliner, I remember when we were in PURC, our legal director, Mr. Seko, he used to be within the Lifeline, because he was virtually not at home.
Break it down for us. For a Lifeline consumer,
now it used to be 50.
What would they have in their home?
Maybe a radio, a fridge.
A fridge?
Yes, a small fridge.
Isn't a fridge high consuming?
No, if it is not second hand, it's not high consuming.
Okay.
So a fridge.
But a lot of people who fall within this category cannot afford a brand new refrigerator.
That's what I'm saying. So if it is not brand new, then you have a lot of consumption.
So a radio, a fridge.
A radio, a fridge, and maybe a bulb, one bulb.
Iron.
Iron is high consuming.
Okay. So for most people who will use an iron, they will probably fall outside the Lifeline customer
even when
range.
they reduced it to 40, I was like, even when it was at 50, the data said there were about 1 million customers on the 50.
So realistically, to be a Lifeline customer, you should probably just turn on your lights.
Or you are not at home.
Or you are never home.
Yes, you are not home. But mostly, at the time, I don't know what the data has, what has happened. But most of them were in the NEDCO areas. So you realize that NEDCO always needed support to operate. The NEDCO meaning the northern part of Ghana. Most of them were in the NEDCO areas. And because it was low and sometimes it's subsidized, I mean, they were not getting the requisite revenue.
That was when it was at 50?
When it was at 50. Now they brought it to 40.
At 40, realistically, would you say that even about 10% of Ghanaians will fall within this Lifeline consumer bracket?
I don't think, I mean, not Ghanaians. You know, we have customers.
People who live
the customers
in Ghana.
Yeah, the customers who are ECG customers.
ECG customers.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. They are mostly in the northern part of Ghana. That is what it was before.
Okay.
Do you get me? So with the Lifeline, mostly it's subsidized. But the point is that we were even talking about, I mean, the traders saying they will pass on. What are they going to pass on? Traders are not part of this increase. So what are they going to pass on?
If they fall outside the Lifeline consumer bracket?
No, but their work is exempted.
Yes, I mean, they say that salons and tailoring shops and barbering shops are exempt. But if their consumption is above the prescription given?
No, don't mix the two. Residential customers are being charged a tariff because they are saying they want to improve cross-subsidization within the tariff. People at the higher brackets of the tariff, the industrial customers, normally pay more to subsidize residential.
But if you are a tailor or a hairdresser in a residential area, you are going to be affected by
so you are not,
this.
so if you are in a residential area, you are not supposed to use a residential meter. You are supposed to use a commercial meter for categorization.
Absolutely.
Do you get me?
Okay.
You are supposed to get a commercial meter for that business entity in your house for categorization. So if
I have a small salon in front of my house, I must have a separate meter for my salon from the meter I have for my house.
Yes.
Do we have enough meters to go around?
I mean, they should get it for you. So if you are in there and you
from what you know realistically,
yes,
is this what is done?
Yes, that is what is done. You should apply.
But do they apply?
That one, it depends on the people who are working.
You know, many of those hairdressing salons and barbering shops are situated in front of people's houses.
Yes.
So they share meters.
You are not supposed to share meters because the moment you even share, you are paying more. For instance, if your household uses about 200 units, you fall within the residential class. But immediately you share a meter, you can jump to 600 plus, and your tariff will be higher. So it is always better to separate meters. That is why we are always advocating that the compound houses should be given a meter per room.
Do we have enough meters to go around?
No, half of meters ECG should make a budget.
When you were with the PURC, did you know this?
Yes, we did. Yes,
there were enough meters to go around for a compound house. Everybody gets their own meter.
They were supposed to. They even started a pilot. But you see, today I can say it. I've left PURC how many years? There is a code that you don't have to break. I think I've left PURC 6 years, I can say. Because the moment you separate that meter, your revenue will reduce. Do you know why? Because then everybody is consuming according to what they have used. And they are paying for that. But once it's a one bulk meter, immediately you go into a higher tariff bracket. And that higher tariff bracket has a higher tariff. So the utility will get more money. So they are very reluctant to break it down. But typically, every compound, and also the landlords should wire the houses to that effect. Most houses that we have were not constructed to be a compound house. Sometimes it's a family house. The father or the mother dies, they leave it to the kids. The kids also go and do their own thing. My father's house in Kumasi is 15 bedrooms. My father is gone. My mother is 93. We are all living in Accra. When we go to Kumasi, we live there. So if at a point, mommy also dies and the house is there, and we decide that we are going to rent it out, to individuals. That house is not wired for separate metering. So there should be a collaboration between the ECG, between government and landlords. There should be a law by the assembly that if you want to use your house as a commercial place for renting, then it should be wired separately for separate metering. And that is not the job of the ECG. One thing that I also have to say about the industries helping, the industries in the mining sector should be able to help because they are making a lot of money, and some of them who are the foreign ones. I remember in 2004 to 2003 when President Kufuor was the president, and we had this load shedding. The mines brought us an 80 megawatt reserve plant, bought by the mining companies, the Chamber of Mines, to augment the electricity, to augment the grid. So they can also help to reduce the tariff. Yes, cross-subsidization is good, but there are some of them in there who can pay more. But I'm here for the traders saying they are passing it on. Please, you are not touched. There's also everybody was struggling with renewable energy. Renewable energy is good, but it's very costly.
That's what I was telling you.
You see the sunlight the same. There are a lot of intermittency in the sun. Intermittency because at a point like this period that we are in, let's assume that we have on the grid solar. You will not get the energy you need because today is raining, tomorrow there is sun. It is good for off-grid solutions, and that is where also the government should have an arrangement with estate developers that when they build, they should make arrangements for solar panels so that those who buy these houses would pay for it. So we have off-grid solutions. Because if you want to use solar as part of the grid, then you need a lot of batteries to store the energy so that when there's an intermittency issues, then the energy, there will be a reverse flow so that the energy can be used. Okay. And it is not cheap. Auntie Frances talked about wind. Wind speed is very important. You don't just put wind mills around.
Absolutely.
Wind speed, I remember they did something at Bato because that place has some form of good wind speed. I mean, when you are doing renewable energy, you need to do a lot of work. Okay. It is not something that you can just say that my only source of energy is renewable. Okay. There's a lot of investment, there's a lot of work that has to go in. But you see, this is an IMF conditionality, and I think the government should come up and say it true and true.
All right.
That's an IMF conditionality.
Thank you so much, yes. Nanaya. I'd like us to now talk to an energy expert on this matter, the Executive Director of the IES. Nana Amoisi the 7th has now joined us on the phone lines. Hello, sir.
Hello, Nashako. Good morning to you.
Good morning. You're welcome to the show. There's a 4.2 increase in electricity tariffs for non-lifeline consumers. Is this a step in the right direction at this time?
Well, first, Nashpa, I want to know the factor that induced that. What really influenced that adjustment? That's very important because if you realize the energy mix was maintained as it was in the second quarter, roughly about 29% for hydro and close to 71% for thermal. So it means that there's not been any change. When it comes to the forex, the city's performance against the US dollar, the PRC's own statement indicates that it did fare better than the second quarter. So that also doesn't give any reason for an upward adjustment. The next thing that comes in is inflation. Inflation is down compared to the second quarter. So it means there's also no reason from this variable for tariff to go up. What really comes up is the weighted average cost of gas. And the PRC says that it's gone up from 6 to about 8 million British thermal units. That's $8 per million British thermal units. The question is, what's the justification? How did we move from $6 to $8? That's the PRC is silent on it. Compared to the second quarter when they pushed up the weighted average cost of gas and gave the reason as the natural gas coming from Nigeria moving up. That is fair. But this one, you see you don't see transparency. You don't give the reason what really moved the gas prices up. That's the first question. If they're able to clear this and we can substantiate that, then of course we say that any adjustment in price is justified. Now, kind of opacity we have around the weighted average cost of gas, doesn't really bring comfort to civil society organizations.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, Nana Amoechi. I'm sorry. Nana Anamwasechi, I beg your pardon. The biggest concern for a lot of consumers is the categorization of lifeline customers or lifeline consumers. In your opinion, this categorization apparently means that people who fall within a certain consumption bracket are not affected by this increase. However, the reality on the ground suggests that a lot of Ghanaians who should fall within this bracket share meters. And because they share meters, the tariff automatically goes up, because if one person were to pay 20 Ghana cedis and he lives in a compound house with 5 other people, that makes it 100 Ghana cedis and takes them outside the bracket of who lifeline consumers are. Do you think that this categorization is fair? Is there another way it can be done so that the ordinary Ghanaian who is supposed to be served by this subsidy or reduction is actually served by it?
Let me clarify. The name is Nana Amoechi the seventh. That's the first thing. You were asking about lifeline consumers and the impact of the tariff on them. Yes, the PRC say that ECG captures almost 700,000 people within that bracket. But as you indicated, many of these people can barely own a house, so they rent, and many of them can be found in compound houses. And you have a group of people using 1 meter. And so the consumption will shoot up far above the 30 kV or kilowatt hour that is given to them as a form of relief. And so many of these people don't enjoy that benefit within the lifeline customers. And because they fall outside it because of the way they come together and use 1 meter or use one line. Maybe it is time the PRC recategorize the lifeline consumers so that the benefit that need to inure to them will be really reflected. But for now, our suspicion is that many Ghanaians will not benefit from the lifeline range because they don't even exist and they don't live within that bracket.
They don't exist.
Yes, because how many people, how many Ghanaians can own a meter and say that I'm taking a meter and I'm just going to use 4 bulbs, a television, a radio, and a fan, so that I don't consume beyond the lifeline bracket. How many Ghanaians can own a meter? And so you get people, coming around 1 meter, and at the end you see that the month consumption goes beyond the lifeline bracket. And so they don't enjoy it, although they are poor, as we categorize them.
All right. So the categorization needs to be reconsidered, because in reality, these lifeline customers would not exist because of shared meters and so on. Thank you so much for joining us on the phone and for giving us those insights. I've been talking to the Executive Director of the IES, Nana Amoechi the 7th. Thank you for joining us. So,
please, can I make a correction?
Yes, you can.
40 units, it doesn't mean that they all live in compound houses.
Is it 40 units or 40 kilowatts?
40 units of electricity.
Okay, what's that in kilowatts?
I don't have it.
Because he talked about kilowatts.
But whatever it is, I am saying that it's 40 units per person. It doesn't mean they are in compound houses. There are people in compound houses who have air conditioners in their rooms.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Because I've walked through compound houses where people have air conditioners. It does not mean categorically that those people are in compound houses. They might be in places where they don't use much electricity. As I said, most of them, according to data, are in the NEDCO areas. Do you understand? So we should not say because they are in compound houses, they use. I can even be in my house and I'll be a lifeliner. Because I don't need I might not even be leaving them most of the time. Maybe I'm traveling, I'm a consultant, I come in, I'm going. I can still be within this 40 kilowatt hours.
Okay.
Do you guys me? This is a 40 units, there's 40 kilowatt hours. I can be in that category.
Okay.
Do you understand me? So we shouldn't say that it is because the people are living in compound houses.
I get you.
And the rewiring of these houses is key. It is not the responsibility of ECG to rewire houses, compound houses.
But it's the responsibility of ECG to educate,
to educate
landlords on rewiring.
Yes,
Of the Energy Commission.
When I was there, we had a lot of stakeholder meetings with the landlords.
Yes.
And they found it very difficult to even spend money because they are making money out of the electricity that is being consumed by the tenants. That is the truth. They are making money out of it because they don't even show them the bills. We had a lot of stakeholder meetings. They will just quote right there how much they think they have to pay and give it to them. Because they need, it's a two-way, they need to rewire for ECG to provide meters.
All right. Thank you for that point. Frances?
Well, anyway, briefly, I'm not an energy expert when it comes to power. I would quickly just maybe one or two
briefly
rebuttals. You know, I talked about diversification.
Diversification.
Yes, she's also mentioned it. You questioned about, you threw a question on nuclear solar. You know, I indicated that these things are expensive.
Yes, you did.
Windmills, we've had the education. That's, you know, all these things are technical and subject to the climatic conditions in every area. And then again, what you realize that the population increase is key. And the penetration is high, 80% plus. So maintaining that stability, I'm talking of in penetration, as we go forward, it's not going to be easy. So as for cost sharing, we all have to impute into it.
Okay.
And you know, as for tariff, taxes, the increases and so on, we do not politicize them because you look at the situation on the ground. That's why I quoted former President Kufuor, so that the politicization, which is going forward, we must look at our institutions as institutions of states or governments and not institutions of political parties.
All right.
And in winding up, I don't want to do politics this morning, but like she rightly said, the commercialization of meters, all these categories, I believe the PURC, like I've said, must have the conversation with the relevant institutions so that appropriately we put in the necessary systems.
All right.
And then the gas that has been spoken about this morning, you know, how do we get cheaper sources of gas to ensure that it's true?
All right. Aisha, you have...
So for me, even though we may blame government, whether it's a conditionality, it's not, I believe that keeping the lights on, keeping businesses alive, the traders should know is more important.
Even if we cannot afford it?
No, you see, affordability is relevant.
All right. Let's hear from Aisha. Yeah. Final word.
So now,
yes, Aisha.
This whole issue we are discussing, like I've said, the burden is going to be on us. A burden that was avoidable. But here we are today. If traders say they are going to transfer the cost onto customers, you should know why they are saying that. Because they live in residence. The revenue they make or the profit they make in their sales is what they are going to use to pay the tariffs in their homes. So if at the end of the day I make a 200 Ghana cedis profit and I have to go and pay tariffs of 150 cedis instead of maybe the previous 120 cedis. Yes, if I go back to the market, I would want to recover that cost. So I'll definitely push it onto the customer. So this is the reason why they are saying they are going to push it onto the customer. And like I've indicated earlier, a lifeline customer barely exists. Barely. They barely exist.
All right.
Most people that fall within that category can't afford meters of their own. They will definitely share. They will move above the threshold. At the end of the day, we are going to suffer the consequences because of mismanagement of the MPP government.
Okay.
Yes, they have mismanaged the ESLA funds. They have decided to collateralize it. And today, here we are being burdened with unnecessary tariffs.
Okay, Aisha. Thank you for that last point. Now, yesterday here at TV3, there was a national dialogue on the free SHS progress, challenges, and prospects. We had some very key personalities in the house to do this discussion. But more importantly, on social media and many platforms, there were conversations about whether or not the free SHS has produced poor quality students, and if it has, what can be done to remedy the situation, since the future of our young children could be in danger. I would like us to be very brief on this. Frances, I'll start with you, of course.
Well, I'll just go straight to the answers. We look at accessibility.
Accessibility.
We look at quality. And we look at the fact that, you see, I think currently, per the data, about 2 million, we're talking of the SHS.
Yes.
Due to free SHS, if you pardon me.
All right. You're talking about accessibility versus quality, and I think that's a very important point.
No, not versus. I'll come to the quality.
Okay.
Accessibility has increased.
Yes.
Because of the free SHS.
Yes.
And I think it justifies what Professor Adair said. And the concerns raised by the NAT, answers have been given that whose child should remain at home. Whilst we put in all the buildings, and I think this government has given a lot of, when I talk of a lot of internal infrastructure, it is not building schools in the bush about 100 kilometers, you know, from the nearest habitation, which is important. But you realize that within the institutions themselves, infrastructure has been expanded. Again, if you look, for instance, at free SHS, in this time when the STEM has been introduced, or in this period when technical education has been enhanced, you would realize that having this quantum and pushing more gradually towards the STEM, or the sciences and technical, engineering, medical, and so on,
mathematics,
will start the revolution, not even start, but will accentuate or accelerate the need to go off Russian studies, Chinese studies, and all those.
Russian studies?
No, yeah, in the university, you used to have Russian studies. Oh.
We're talking about free SHS.
I'm saying that the base for getting to the university is what?
Okay.
Secondary education.
Yes.
And so if the base is not solid, in terms of the sciences, technology, engineering, medical, mathematics and so on, all I'm saying, the way the world is going this time, you cannot be saying you are concentrating on some, odd disciplines, which really at the end of the day.
Are you saying that what we have now is odd?
No, I'm saying that when you look at our universities, because of the base we used to have, the concentration on the 3 R's.
Yes.
When we get in there, you'll find some odd studies that will not really favor our system. But with industrialization, with technology, with the digital revolution across the world, you'd realize that the geo-economy is now shifting. So the base, the base in our secondary schools also have to change. So
yesterday, during yesterday's conversation.
Let me finish.
Okay.
Link it up. The accessibility. When you have a large group of people, and all of them are not necessarily just doing the 3 R's, the traditional focus, and things like STEM are coming in, Meaning we are diversifying.
We don't have much time, but I want to ask you. I want to ask you this specific question that was part of the things that was discussed yesterday. In terms of funding the free SHS, the truth is that there are some parents who are happy and able to pay.
Oh, I have a good answer to that.
So, what do you think, Frances?
Let me give you the straight answer.
Wait, I'm asking this specifically because of some of the challenges the secondary schools are having.
Absolutely.
With feeding the students, for example, because over the last 1 week, we've seen a lot of pictures on social media from secondary schools showing us meals.
Pictures on social media?
Yes, and photos from secondary
schools.
schools.
The question?
Talking about meals that are not very wholesome that the students are eating. So if funding is a problem, why don't we consider allowing parents who can pay to pay?
Now, you ask the question, let me answer it.
Okay.
I don't deal with social media evidence. I deal with evidence as it comes from the GES or the parent teacher associations.
PTA. So have you heard about this food challenge?
Please, I don't deal, I'm not a social, I don't live my life on
okay,
social
but
media.
outside social media, have you heard about this food challenge?
No, I don't deal with hearsay. I deal with facts.
So you don't know for a fact that there's a food challenge?
It is not, that, you see, I don't know it for a fact.
Okay.
One, let me answer your question straight to the point. For those who feel they can pay, I am recommending that a bureau or a secretariat is set up immediately so that all the parents who feel they can pay or those who are insistent coming on television screens, we can pay and so on and so forth. Please go and register like we're doing for national identification and other. Please go and register. I can pay for my ward. And we think this should be done as quickly as possible.
By who?
No, I'm saying that those who can pay, I say, listen, what a bureau or a secretariat should be set up because it cannot be outside the system so that the Ghana Education Service would have to put these secretariats across all regions. One, so you go there, I can pay for my ward.
This is your suggestion?
No, I'm saying it's a recommendation.
Okay.
Straight, you said what should be done so that they can go and list their names so that in the next academic year, when we have a list and it is 1 million, it is, let's say, 50,000, 100,000, then we know that these people are exempt from the free SHS.
All right.
And that will be their contribution to national development.
Thank you, Auntie
In
Frances.
so much as they're saying that, please, we are creating or continue to create the egalitarian society.
That's all our time.
Equity.
But I think you've made your point.
Now, do you know something?
I think you've
have
made your
friends,
point.
I'm coming. You may see them as affluent with flashy cars and so on. They don't have a zeal. They don't have even 1/10 of what maybe you or we may be having in their bank accounts. So you see, it is relative. That argument is relative. So if you want to create an egalitarian society, somebody has a rich father who is not even looking after that child, and the mother may not be in the position to continue. So it is to address.
Point well made.
Yes.
Point well made.
And education.
Thank you, Auntie
is
Frances.
a key
That's all
to
our time.
creating national wealth.
Thank you so much.
And as for the quality,
Aisha, let me come to you now. Thank you, ma'am.
As for the quality, it's thumbs up.
Your point is well made.
It's thumbs up.
Aisha.
Thank you. So talking about quality here, I think
we have 1 minute each.
No,
you
can't give me 1 minute.
I'll plead with you.
I will plead with you.
I will plead with you. I'll plead with you.
You can't give me.
I plead with the two of you to make it snappy for us.
You can't give me 1 minute. Even in the
let's go. We're spending time discussing
so
this.
much time and cut me short.
Let's go. Let's go.
I'm not taking 1 minute.
Let's go. Auntie Frances.
Thank you.
You see, talking about quality, the IMF in their report has stated clearly that quality has been compromised. Quality of the free SHS has been compromised, and that affirms what we've been saying all this while. And it's, you know, it's not just saying, but there are a lot of evidence to prove that yes, quality has been. The World Bank.
It's the World Bank.
The World Bank. It has been compromised. And Professor Adair himself now coming back to tell us that quality hasn't been compromised. Absolutely. I would pardon him because he's an old man. And probably he had memory loss because he sat on Joy News. He sat on Joy News in an interview and said that. the free SHS. Professor Ade on Joy News.
You said he has memory loss.
Just in 2022.
So he probably has memory loss.
Probably, because if he has already told us,
and I think we shouldn't. I think we shouldn't make diagnosis.
Maybe.
Yes, but
state emphatically.
I know you said that, but you can't say maybe and make a diagnosis that you don't know about.
Maybe because
I think you have to. Okay, let's hang on. But I think that you shouldn't make.
Why would you allow me to justify why I said that?
Listen, unless...
No, why would you allow me?
I don't think you should
allow me to learn.
A diagnosis of somebody's health that you don't know about. Unless you know for
maybe.
Okay, let's hold on with that.
There is a caveat. I didn't state emphatically.
Hang on, I said
that because he had gone on.
Aisha, I need us to address this before you go on.
No.
You can say maybe and say something derogatory. That does not make it or prevent it from being derogatory. So I don't think you should say that. Yeah, I think you can make your point without saying that.
Is a disease.
Because it says derogatory.
Amnesia is a disease.
Yeah. All right.
Now,
yes, please.
I withdraw.
Yes, thank you.
But as I said, he had already gone to Joy News to say that the free SHS should be reviewed and that the money being invested in the free SHS, which is about 7.5 billion every year, should be used to complete the community day schools, to improve quality. What did he mean by that? It means quality has been compromised. So today, if Professor Ade comes back to tell us that quality hasn't been compromised, then he's just trying to please the system. And whatever he said today is conflicting with what he has said previously. That is the reason why I said what I said. And again, you see, this whole free SHS today has been what it is today because government failed to accept that it is failing. It is failing in the implementation of the free SHS. We had CHAS members, headmasters of schools, being hounded, being transferred just because they were speaking to the problems they were facing in the schools. The school feeding became an issue. They were not getting what they had to get. Look, a typical example is Koforidua Sector. Here, right here, I watch it on TV3 with Belamundi. Koforidua Sector students were not having lights because government could not pay for the electricity they were enjoying. Their septic tank had got broken. They had to attend nature's call in the bush. They had to move out of the school, sit under the street lights with their decks to be able to learn. These are the things that affected the quality of the free SHS. Aside from that, it is also evident that in 2021, we saw the worst examination malpractice ever in the history of Ghana's education system. The worst ever. Where about only 50% of the students, despite all the examination malpractices, had from A1 to C6. This clearly tells us that quality has been compromised. So if the World Bank says that quality has been compromised, there are reasons and there are evidence to that effect. Whatever we see on social media, whatever we come here and discuss, whatever the parents are feeling is what it is. That's why headmasters are being hounded, so they would keep mute.
All right, Aisha.
And here we are with the problem.
Thank you so much. All right, Nanaya Ajantua.
The legacy-free SHS.
Nanaya Ajantua. Auntie Frances, please desist from making any further
comments. I'm just saying the best policy.
Auntie Frances, I bid you to speak.
Who's the name?
I forbid you to speak.
Nanaya.
I'll put duct tape on you.
Nanaya, on to your point, please.
Next time, don't bring him with me. So I'm very free to
you see, free SHS is a good policy everybody likes. For me, where I'm coming from as a CPP person, it started with our governments, Osagyefo for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Dr. Liman and all that. But you see, there are factors that will make one remain at home. And these are factors that we don't look at. The inability to pay fees, not doing well in school. You see, one of the issues regarding free SHS, now you have people getting aggregate 38 going to secondary schools. And they are proud to talk about it. In our time, and even before free SHS, you cannot take 38 to any secondary school.
way.
Do you get me? So, I mean, all these things, and even accessibility in terms of geographical location, and it is linked to doing well. Because in those days, somebody like Honorable Osafo Malfo said that he was in Achimewisa and he came to Achimota School. There were people in Kumasi who went to Wesley Girls High School, Holy Child. It's far, Cape Coast, Ashanti region. But because they did well at school, they went to some of these top schools. So it is so many factors that will come together to ensure quality. We are also looking at quality even at the lower levels. It runs through quality from the lower level to the SHS to the university. Generally, we have an issue with the quality of education in Ghana. And if you have worked with some of the students who have come through these free SHS and through the universities, even a common memo, and most of the young ones, even when they write WhatsApp English. THIS, they will spell it DIS. This.
I see.
Do you understand? So all these factors, I think that the free SHS has to be
And the
reviewed.
university lecturers have already
all right.
come out
It is
to
a
start
it
talking.
is a good program.
That's talking.
Auntie Francis, the two of you should let me finish.
Thank you, everybody.
Let me conclude.
Nanaya, you have 30
SHS,
seconds to conclude.
You haven't been
Please.
nice to me.
I am sorry.
The free SHS
That's all our time.
has to be reviewed. There's no doubt about that.
It should be reviewed.
Yes, it should be reviewed.
That's
all right.
Thank you so much. Who can pay should be made to pay.
President and Prime Minister into Paris of the Republic of Ghana.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you so much, ladies. Ladies, thank you. All right, ladies. Please let us comport ourselves. All right. You're watching TV3 New Day. I've been talking to Frances Isiama Nanaya, Achimpim Jantwa, and Aisha Al Hassan. When we come back, we're going to be enjoying some very great music. VGMA Songwriter of the Year is in the house. Best Male Performer is in the house. We have some sports, and then we'll also see our baby who needs our help. Please stay tuned.
You know the now.